78% of customers buy from the first company to contact them. The other side is if you can contact a lead that submits to you, whether it's for sales or recruiting, within 5 minutes, you increase the conversion rate by 900%. I always thought as an entrepreneur, there's like a right way to do things. So I would try to do that in marketing and I would try to do that with recruiting. And I found that it did not work. So I want to make sure that when I'm hiring somebody, they are continuing to educate themselves. That's one of the biggest questions that I'll ask is, what is the last book that you've read? If you have individuals that can't communicate well in a startup, you're dead in the water. Just because AI can do so much, don't get lazy.
Welcome to the 80/20 Recruit podcast, the show that's all about mastering remote talent acquisition and retention. Whether you're hiring your first remote worker or scaling your team, we've got you covered. I'm Frank, your host. Let's get started. Welcome to the 80/20 Recruit podcast, hiring, building, retaining top talent. This show is dedicated to helping business leaders, recruiters, and HR professionals master the art of hiring and managing remote teams. I'm your host, Francisco Israel, and you can find me everywhere on social media, especially on LinkedIn. Our podcast is proudly sponsored by 8020recruit.com, where we help companies recruit high-performing Latin American teams, saving them 70% of local salaries, and that is all 100% guaranteed without markup fees or recurring fees. Today's guest is Phil Portman, who is CEO at TextDrip and Landline Remover. At his companies, they're all about texting with the best deliverability of any testing service. He's founded a few companies, and we're going to talk a lot about recruiting from the different perspectives of a founder with remote companies. So, Phil, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Hey, man. So I want to ask you, what do you think is the biggest trend that you see regarding recruiting in these days?
Yeah, so the big reason why I was on your show today is we handle texting, and primarily we were doing it with marketing and sales. But recently, we've had a large uptick in recruiters that have come on board and using TextDrip for recruiting. And their response has been that it's completely changed the game for them. They are getting overwhelmed with responses. It's been an incredible opportunity. And a couple things that we've been doing with it is combining both Landline Remover with TextDrip. And so what Landline Remover does is it clears up and shows you anyone that has non-textable numbers. So you're not going to be trying to text somebody that can't receive text messages. Also provides you with anyone that's on the do not call list, so you don't get in trouble for contacting somebody that's on the DNC list. And then thirdly, we also show you who is a known litigator. And these are individuals who are trying to get you to contact them so they can send you a letter telling you, hey, you owe me this amount of money for violating, TCPA laws and things like that. So we want to help protect you. So we have this service to help kind of clean that up. And then you bring your system, your contacts into TextDrip, and we help you message your recruits and get the exponential growth that we've seen out of recruiters so far. So this has been a big trend. I'd say over the last few months, we've had plenty of recruiters coming on board with us, and they all are just amazed at the response that they get from texting when compared to phone or email.
That's great. So in your bio, you told me a little bit about how you've seen great results when you can increase speed regarding responses from candidates, but candidates is a lot like selling. So you want to have them answer fast and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about how important that speed is regarding sourcing, recruiting, and how you can help?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like sales, 78% of customers buy from the first company to contact them. Same with recruiting. If they're getting recruited from a bunch of companies, they're going to respond to the first company that reaches out to them. And so the other side is if you can contact a lead that submits to you, whether it's for sales or recruiting, within 5 minutes, you increase the conversion rate by 900%. 900%. So obviously speed is incredibly quick. And although you may send an email and a text message out at the same time, we know the text message is being viewed significantly faster. On average, it's 90 seconds versus 90 minutes with an email. The reason for that, I believe, is people are used to getting instant notification on text messages, and it's actually the preferred way to receive communication, preferred over email, phone call, and even face to face interactions. Because with text messaging, they can interact with it when it's convenient for them. So they could be making dinner and sending you a text message back about with their information. And then maybe a little while later, they're laying in bed and they're sending you a text message back and forth with it. Versus other forms require that they dedicate a specific amount of time to your interaction. And nowadays, that's difficult to do. So texting is the by far the best way to communicate with a customer. And it's really the reason why we built TextStrip was because of the effectiveness of it.
Isn't there maybe a lag if you send the candidate a text message with a link, like apply here, and maybe they need the whole keyword, their whole computer keyword to apply. They need to maybe put in a photo or something, put in a resume. Isn't there a lag when they have to, apply a sort of complex application? If they have to click on an SMS where they wouldn't have the link directly on their computer. You know what I mean?
So you're saying if you were to email them the link instead of, because either way, they're going to have to click a link and it's going to open up a browser. So if
Uh-huh.
you're emailing them, it'd be the same thing. You'd be clicking on it. And that may have been true more so in the older days when primarily people were using the web browsers on their computer. But nowadays, majority of the traffic is actually done on mobile. So whether they're clicking the link inside their email or inside their text message, it's doing the same thing. It's opening a browser on their phone. So with that, you have to make sure that your recruiting website is mobile optimized. It has to be fast, it has to be efficient because they are clicking the link. I don't believe there's any lag on that unless there's a lag on your site that's actually loading it, but it's being delivered
No,
the same
no.
way. However, I do want to
Or,
put a little something on
yeah,
that.
yeah, go.
Yeah, there are one thing that we help you with when you come on board with TechStrip is guiding a lot of the regulations involved with TCPA and sending messages through 10DLC. When you come on board with us for free, you're getting a consultation with somebody. We have no contracts. You get a free trial. You sit down with somebody for free. We're making an investment in you because we know if you get the response and the effectiveness of our platform, we will grow together. We'll grow in business together. So we're helping guide you through that because there's certain things that you can and can't do, certain things that will get you blocked or throttled. And one of those things would be sending a link on the initial message. If you send out a link, hey, just got this, click on this link to apply, there's a good chance that that message is going to get blocked by the carriers. The reason for that is because, like during COVID, we used to get COVID relief fund, click here, right? Or we'd get Bank of America, reset your password. There's a lot of fraudulent activity with links in it. So, what the carriers want to see is that you're getting a response that it's two-way communication first. So, you're going to
Mhm.
want to send a message that is going to engage whoever you're speaking to before sending the link. Once you have a response from them and you've initiated that two-way communication, then you can actually send them a link or picture or whatever else you want. But it's an important component to texting that is slightly different than email. But along with email, we also have certain keywords and some other things that we recommend you avoid. Like an email, it's free, right? If you put free in an email, it'll often get blocked. Likewise, in texting, there's certain phrases that the carriers have associated with scam messages, and so they'll block or throttle your message. Not only do we help guide that through during our training process, but we actually flag those keywords inside of our system to prevent you from sending them out and getting blocked by the carriers. So you can absolutely send links, but you want to make sure you're doing it the correct way so that you don't get blocked.
There you have it. Speed is key. Texting, including texting in your sourcing of candidates, can make it a lot better and more efficient. So got that one. I want to go um, into a slightly another subject now. You talked in your bios again about how you learned a few lessons from recruiting, a few things that you didn't do very well. Can you tell us a little bit about the lessons that you learned, and therefore what are the good recommendations that you can do now?
Absolutely. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I came from the corporate world. I left and got into entrepreneurship and learned a lot of heavy lessons. I always thought as entrepreneur, there's like a right way to do things, right? Like the corporate way, that's the right way. If I follow the way that the large companies are doing things, then that's probably the right way. So I would try to do that in marketing and I would try to do that with recruiting. And I found that it did not work. And let me explain. When I was hiring people, I would look for, God, who's the top candidate that I can afford with this lengthy resume and all the education and accolades and all that stuff, and I'm gonna go for that person. And I was very resume specific, looking from that angle. And I would look past certain flaws in the individual from a culture standpoint, not understanding that they were coming from a corporate world and I was an entrepreneurial startup. Well, if you've been part of a startup, you'll find that things move quickly. Oftentimes, you have to wear different hats and make decisions, and there's crossing between roles that exist in a startup because you're not maintaining, you're growing at such an accelerated rate. And the individuals that they needed in the corporate world were not exactly the individuals that I needed in my world. So, what I started looking for were people that had the right attitude and aptitude. We were much slower to hire, but quick to fire because we needed to make sure that these were individuals that were going to fit with the team first and foremost. And something I will say with any company, but especially a startup, is communication is key. If you have individuals that can't communicate well in a startup, you're dead in the water because things are happening so quickly that if you have to spend extra time over communicating things, then you're not going to be able to move at the pace that you need to. So what we would find is even if somebody was lacking certain skills in their resume, if they had the aptitude, the attitude, and the communication, we could train them in those different roles. Currently, I have somebody from my customer service team in an accelerated marketing course at a university because we think she's going to be a really great fit as part of our marketing team. So we're paying for her education to go into that. And so that's really what we have changed in my attitude from back then, or my mindset. My mindset was very resume focused. And I thought, well, hey, I'm going to duplicate what the corporate world was doing, but it just didn't translate for what I was doing in my world.
I resonate so much because I was in the corporate world 7 years, and then Jesus Toledo, who is actually my co-founder here in 83 Recruit, was my first partner about 14 years ago in our first company a while ago. And he brought me to his company because I brought in the corporate world, the more structured world, and he thought he wanted that, but it was all bad for a startup. It was all bad for a small company. And I brought all the structure of a corporate world, and I started hiring and managing like in corp, and it was a mess. We didn't do bad, but I think we got lucky. But it was a mess in that way. So I wish I had listened to that lesson because I resonate big time with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's different stages. I mean, you'll get to a point where is helpful and it is incredibly useful, especially when you're in a maintaining mode. But there's different hats and there's different modes that you move through as you move through the life cycle of a company. And especially when you're skyrocketing in growth, you need certain individuals that are willing to do whatever it takes to keep the business growing at the rate it is.
I want to switch into another subject that I think is pretty hot, and that is technology. Technology, AI has been stealing all the eyes when we say technology. So, yes, I want to talk about AI in recruiting. But then there's automation as well, when texting has a lot to say here. So, my question is, what do you think is the role regarding technology in the different stages of recruiting, meaning sourcing, interviewing, maybe the different summaries that you can have after interviewing and then following up? How do you see technology coming in place in these stages?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with I want to talk just briefly around why we started TechStrip, and it has to do with technology and some of the automation components around it. So we found that majority of the CRM platforms out there were very email centric. So they were centered around email. And text messaging was almost an afterthought thrown on there, right? Well, texting has significantly higher open rate, response rate, and it's preferred by customers. So we thought 80-20, if we focus on the thing that's giving us the best results, the 20% that's giving us 80% of our results, not to say that we're not going to get results from email, but if we could focus on that, make that the core of the system, will we get better results? And so that's what we did. And the same thing can be said with automation. If you can identify an AI, if you can identify things that are giving you great results and then dig into them, then you can expand your business exponentially. And the thing that AI has really allowed us to do is we can take massive amounts of data and pull it into an AI system and immediately see where our strengths, opportunities are, and where we should really hone in on that 20% that's going to give us the 80% results. Whether it's from certain customers, if we just leverage our top 20% or 20% of those 20%, if we focus on those individuals, will we get a better increase than a broad marketing strategy, right? So AI from an analytical standpoint has really helped us as companies move forward. From a marketing standpoint, obviously, there's so many things that we can do with automation now. Within TechStrip, the reason why it's so effective is that 80% of sales require 5 follow-ups, but 44% of sales agents give up after one attempt. So with automation, you don't have to worry about following up with them. The system's doing that automatically. All you're doing is engaging with the individuals that are interested in your sales in that moment. So once again, take it from an 80-20 standpoint. If 80% of your time is spent on administrative tasks, clicking buttons and all that stuff, 20% of your time is actually engaging with your customer, your recruit, your sales prospect, or your applicant, then if you could get rid of that 80% by automating or using AI, now you're spending all of your time on what is actually growing your business or recruiting or whatever it is that you're focused on. So that's really where automation has helped out. I do always like throwing this in, especially in the day of AI. Just because AI can do so much, don't get lazy. Be part of that process. I get on a regular basis email and LinkedIn messages that are clearly AI. And there's so much AI that there's an occasional time that I don't understand what it is they're selling. I have no idea. Like I've gotten messages and they're regurgitating my resume basically. Like, hey, tech strip CEO and all that stuff. Oh, you own a horse farm, blah blah blah. They're going through all that. But it makes it sound like in the email that they're offering texting services. I understand that the AI is actually messed up in the way it's doing it, but it's not effective. So you still need a hand in your process and use AI as a tool, but don't get lazy and just let AI do the recruiting for you. There needs to be a combination. Use it to help you generate content, to help come up with ideas, but make sure you have a hand in that entire process.
I agree. I agree. I want to tell you a short experience. And I want to know your thoughts just about that. So when we do sourcing, of course, we do use technology. I mean, we're using technology right now. So we do sourcing, filtering, and interviewing. And there's technology and AIs for all of those steps. The more human that we do all those steps, the better engagement that we have, the less we can scale. And the more technology that we use, the less the slower that we are and the less engagement that we have from candidates, especially from candidates, and the less we can have good candidates. So tricky question here is should I automate? How much should I automate? And then now I want to know your thoughts because you can double click in the different steps. Some are in the early stages of the looking for the candidate to do the test and send me the resume. And then if they wanna or I want them to hop into a virtual interview. If they're virtual interviewed, they're not taking the interview. But if there's a human on the other side, then they are. We get that all the time. What do you think? What do you think of this
Yeah, I know
things
you're
that
looking for
we have?
the correct answer from me, Francisco, but I got to
No, I
tell
want to
you,
know your opinion. Your
yeah, in
take.
my opinion, with entrepreneurship, people ask like, what's a quality that makes a successful entrepreneur? And I would say curiosity, consistent curiosity in testing. You need to look at your business like a scientist would and never get comfortable with what works. Because what worked a month ago, 6 months ago, could be completely different in this financial climate, in this political climate, in this environment. It could be completely different. And this time of year could be completely different. And so you always need to be testing, A B testing against two different ways of doing things. So my
Yeah,
answer
always
for
be.
you would be if I was looking at it and saying, how much should I automate versus how much should be personalized, I would split my campaigns into two different tests with 60-40, 40-60, however that works, where you're doing it and see what you're going to get the best results is. You're at the end of the day, you are going to have data that tells you which way your company should go because there's such a variety, right? There's a variety in what type of individuals you're recruiting, where you're recruiting them from, what countries you're recruiting them from. There's just such a variety that there's not really a one size fits all. So my answer for that is to continuously split test, and the data will tell you which way to go.
Great, Phil. I want to go into a one last question before we close out. It's a more human one. So here it goes. When interviewing, okay, and I hear you say a lot about 80/20. Our brand is 80/20, so we're looking for the 80/20 everywhere. Um, so my question is, when interviewing, what's your 80/20 regarding, your best practices? What are the 20% best practices that make for the 80% of the results when interviewing?
Yeah, I love this question. I'm going to tell you two things that I look for in an individual. So I run a podcast called Success Is, and I talk to a lot of people that are successful in a variety of different backgrounds. Could be an entrepreneur, could be a hedge fund manager, could be an author, stunt women. I mean, a little bit of everything. And there's a question I always ask them, and I say, "What book are you reading right now?" And they will all pull out a book and show me and say, "This is the book I'm reading right now. I'm working on this one. I'm about to start on this one." And it is a consistent theme that they are all readers. They're continuing their education. So a question that I will ask is, "What's the last book you read?" It's a question I ask in every single one of my interviews is just, what's a book you've read? I want to know that the individual that I'm talking to is continuing their education beyond their university. If you think about somebody who graduated with a marketing degree 10 years ago, how far behind are they now today? There's platforms and things out there that exist today that didn't even exist when they were in college.
Yeah,
But something like 42% of people that graduate college never complete a full book again. That's crazy. So I want to
it
make
is.
sure that when I'm hiring somebody, they are continuing to educate themselves. That's one of the biggest questions that I'll ask is, what is the last book that you've read? And if they can't
Great
talk
call.
about their continuing education process, then they're not going to be a good fit for my company. The second thing that I'm looking for is an individual that thinks outside the box. So I usually approach with a question that is this or that. So it's A or B. The answer could be this or that. But what I'm looking for is somebody who's thinking of the third option that's not quite apparent. It's not easily visible. So I'm looking for not this or that, but somewhere over here, that C option. And if they have the critical thinking skills to think of the other option that I'm not offering, then that's an individual who's typically going to be a good fit for my team as well.
That's great. I love it. And I did the mental note here. And you know, I have to ask you now, what's the book or books you're working on right now?
Yes, I've got a few different books. As a matter of fact, I just right now on my birthday was April 7th, and I've been working on my own book called The Three Keys to Success for the last 3 years. And I told my wife, I said, the only thing I want for my birthday is a physical copy of my book. And so she was working with the editors and everything, and they finally got it. And 30 minutes before I had to leave for my flight for Vegas, it came in, and I was able to open it up and check it out and everything. So right now, I'm in the process of going through and reading the book. It's a great book, and I'm kind of going through and filling it all out. Another book that I actually just finished, and it's kind of crazy, but have you read the book 80/20 of Sales and Marketing?
Yeah, it's great.
Yes, I just finished that book. It was the last book I read before my own book that I'm reading right now. But I'm going through my book and reading it and doing the activities in it and all that stuff. So not to be self promoting here, but that is what I'm actually reading right now is my own book. Just making sure that it reads well, that it flows well, and that all of the going through all the activities again.
Phil, you are the star of this episode, so please have the space to self promote. Do send me the link to your book if it's out there in Amazon. I guess it is, or whatever is that people can look for it and buy it. Do send me the link, and we'll put it in the show notes. I just finished a book that I read 50 books a year,
That's
something like
great.
that.
Well, that's great.
Listen, yeah. Okay, I read, to be fair, 10 books a year, listen to maybe 40 a year. Okay?
Still, that's
Yeah.
great. So a little fact
And
on that:
then
42% of people never read a full book after college again. But the top CEOs read about 50 books a year. The top CEOs. So it's, do you want to align yourself with the average, or do you want to align yourself with the top CEOs?
hey there, a quick break to remind you that 8020 Recruit podcast is brought to you by 8020 Recruit, helping you hire pre-vetted, top-performing remote talent from Latin America. Save hours of recruiting and find the perfect fit for your team. Visit 8020recruit.com to learn more. I've been through the math of this, and it's pretty easy. Like a fairly good book is something like 6 hours to listen to, and if you go to the school to leave the kids and come back from, I mean, there's a lot of spaces where you can grab 10 to 30 minutes here and there where you can complete those books. But anyway, um, a great book that I just finished, and after reading about 550 books, you get a little numb on like what books get you call your attention again. There's one that called my attention lately because they impact you less and less. So this is a good book if you want to look at it. Was called something like Now Break All the Rules. It's a lot about recruiting, but a lot about management and leadership. Not in a cliche way. Actually, it's about how great managers actually break the social rules. Like they don't treat everyone the same, stuff like that. So yeah, I totally recommend that book. I was saying about the 500 books because that was a great book, even after being numb with all the books. So yeah, that's one thing.
I'm gonna check it out for
And
sure. Absolutely. And
yeah,
so, if you are I'm a typically a business type book reader, um, but I got the idea to expand out a little bit to fiction a while back, and so I will occasionally toss in a fiction book, and I would encourage you to do it, even if you're a business reader and you say why this is a waste of my time. Well, what it helps with is there's parts where it helps with memory, it helps with imagination, helps with critical thinking. All of those things still translate to business because you sometimes in business we need to think outside the box and we need to visualize things. You're developing those skills when you're reading a fiction book. So we don't always need to look at reading as just business books or just self-help books. It is okay to toss in the occasional fictional book as well. I just wanted to throw that out there.
if I want, I totally resonate with that one. And again, I want to not brag, but recommend one of the books. You can see it, but it's the third one. It's a very important one. It's called The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho. It is fiction, quote fiction, but it's more like this guy channeling spiritual knowledge, if you will. And his books are a lot like that. Have you heard The Alchemist?
I,
It's an amazing book.
possibly. I mean, the phrase alchemist I've heard. I don't know if it's specifically that book, but I'm definitely putting it down on my list. So I'll get it.
Please do. Paulo Coelho, very renowned and translated author, and The Alchemist is his number one, but he has like a few more. So that's one. And and yeah, I think we're getting to the last part of this podcast episode where I want you to have your own space. You talked about your book. We'll put it in the show notes. But if people want to know more about you, about your company, you have 30, 60 seconds to throw in your total company pitch if you want. So who do you serve? What's the problem? You've talked a little bit, but throw it in your best style if you want.
Yeah. So I'm absolutely value first. I never want to sell anything to anybody unless I know I can provide value to them. So all of our services have free trials. So you can try us out 14, 30 days. You can try it out. And they all come with free credits. So you can try it out. Matter of fact, if you mention this podcast episode to customer service, we've got a little chat bubble on there. We'll give you 3,000 free credits just for mentioning this. So if you go to techstrip.com and sign up, completely free trial, we pay for your campaign registry. We have a demo specialist that's going to spend an hour with you to get your account set up completely free to you. There's no contract. So if you, for whatever reason, try it out for free and hate us, tell us to kick rocks. We'll go about our way. No pressure at all. But what I guarantee is if you're coming from doing phone or email or whatever currently, and you pull in your contact list in a text message, you will see such an exponential amount of growth from your business. It'll be overwhelming. My personal website is philportman.com, philportman.com. You can also find me on all the social media platforms. If you have any questions, you want to talk shop, you want to talk entrepreneurship, jump on there and shoot me a message. My book will be coming out this summer. So what I got was the author copy. It's not out yet. It'll be coming out this summer. But if you go to philportman.com, you can sign up for my mailing list and get some communication for when it comes out. It's 3 keys to success based on not only my own experience, but distilled some of the secrets from the guests that I've had on my Successes podcast. And we put that in there along with some steps that you can do to achieve your version of success in your life. So thank you.
All right, so that's a wrap for today's episode. Huge thanks to Phil, and so you can learn more about him in all the social media you've heard. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe and leave a review. And if you're an industry leader and you want to be featured, you can apply to be a guest in 8020recruit.com/podcast. And of course, consider 8020 Recruit as your go to partner for all things recruiting in our industry. Until the next time, and keep building strong teams and hiring smarter. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the 80/20 Recruit podcast. If you found today's episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Want more tips? Follow us on LinkedIn and visit our website 8020recruit.com for exclusive resources. See you next time.